Alright, we're gonna go. I'm hoping this works. I hope this works. What are all these things on my screen? I'm still setting things up if you're here. Oh, where'd you go? Alright. Maybe that works. Maybe I need more light. I'm still setting things up if you're here. Alright. I'm trying to catch my screen up. It's still so dark. Let me figure something out here real quick. I'll just turn the light on. Keep laying down, pumpkin face. Okay. All right. This is super weird. I have my computer over here. Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm like, this is new. Figuring things out. Showed my tripod off, which is yarn. So, I have a special guest who is using me as a pillow. Alright, I'm going to try to speak louder then, I guess. You're not deaf. So let me just kind of make this smaller. No, that's not going to work. There we go. And I'll move this over here. All right. Good morning. Got my coffee. Okay, I'm moving. This is still new because like I'm using my phone. I think chatbot will show up because I just set it up. I'm using Streamlabs, so you have to set it up as moderator. It's dumb. I don't expect any trolls, so. But anyway, so the reason I wanted to do this live is because there have been a few situations in the past month, including my own, where there's people out there who've needed help and don't know how to ask for it. And I find a lot of the times, sometimes it's because of pride. They don't want to get something that they haven't earned, which you shouldn't have to earn survival, but you know, it's a mindset. At the same time, instead of finding help that they can use in like any circumstance, at the last minute, or like right when shit hits the fan, they will try to guilt a friend or sometimes even strangers. And I mean, it is what it is, but I'm here to talk about I guess basically like the last 10 years of my life all condensed into one live stream, because for the longest time, I didn't know that I could even get help that I needed. And it's hard to ask just because you don't know what to ask or who to ask. So I'm going to start with a few things. I did take some notes. I'm not going to show you my notes because I'm a nerd. But I'm going to just start at the beginning with how I got here. I was poor growing up. My mom had left her husband before I was born. I don't know that I'm related. I don't think I'm related. But he was at my birth, apparently. That's not related. Anyway, grew up poor. And like, I hear all these jokes from people about, you know, like, government cheese, government milk. Just like, I remember that stuff as a kid, and it wasn't bad, you know? Like, growing up with, like, that big thing of peanut butter, or the big, huge thing of oats, or, like, yes, the, like, gigantic brick of cheese that, like, I don't know about anybody else's mom, but, like, my mom would, like, cut it in, like, thirds and freeze it in aluminum foil. But, like, that was what I knew. I grew up in the Mormon church. We also got help from the church. They have their own specific food. It's not really a food bank, but it's kind of like a food pantry, especially in the Utah area. Sorry if I, like, scratch this area. I have, like, this zit in my hairline, so that's lovely and distracting. But from there, like, I've already made a video on my trauma from my childhood, so go watch that. But when I was a teenager, I was in foster care, my sister and I. And, it really didn't prepare me for the world. And I'm, like, this isn't on my foster parents. Like, the skills that you need as an adult are taught when you're a child, like a small child. How to clean your house, how to wash your dishes, how to make simple foods, cooking, cleaning, washing yourself, all that stuff is taught in early childhood. And I really didn't have a lot of that after my sisters went to college or left the house, because it was my sisters that were taking care of me, not my mom. And, you know, going through therapy, like, you realize all of this stuff, but it's like, it takes a while to get there. So, like, once I left my foster home, they ended up actually adopting my sister and I. I was 15 when I was adopted, so, like, 3 years after adoption, I left the house, because that's what you do when you're 18. And I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to balance a check. Well, I knew how to balance a checkbook. I'd taken 3 years of accounting, but I didn't know that spending your last $20 when you needed it to go to rent is not a good idea, or why you should pay your bills on time, and things like that. So, what you doing, Fifi? Hi. So I didn't really have, it's like, you think it's common sense skills, but they're not really. They're learned skills. So, you know, I didn't have any real solid footing to stand on as an adult. And I went straight from, you know, oh, thank you. I went straight from not knowing what I was doing as an adult into being a young mom, which I do not regret at all, because he has become an amazing young man. I don't know if he wants me to plug his channel. I didn't ask him first, so I'm not going to, but Brody, if you see this and you ever want me to plug your channel, let me know. So, you know, I went from that. Young motherhood is its own special thing, because when you're young, you tend to look at anyone older than you as an authority figure. And so all of these people are telling you what to do, what not to do, and depending on your temperament, you can be really scared to ask for help. And I remember, you know, like, I was, at the time, I was working at McDonald's. I was an assistant manager when my oldest was born. And I felt like all of these extra government services and help that was out there, they weren't for people like me. I had a job. I was working 40 plus hours a week. I was making decent money, but I was spending it like crazy because I wasn't paying rent in my sister's house, and I was being very irresponsible with my money. And then, you know, after that, my son's father and I decided to try marriage. It was definitely a thing that happened. I'm not going to go into it right now. But during Um, can I turn your volume down? Because, thank you. My special guest has decided to join us in the form of a Tokaboka game. Anyway, I was the one that was working. He was staying home and taking care of our son. And, like, I was working night shifts for a credit card company. But, like, I was making decent money, but we could never afford anything. It was always being spent on things that we didn't need. And it's hard when you're in a relationship and your partner isn't, like, on the same page as you with the spending. And this is just not a flattering angle, but I don't care. So you don't really need to see more of my boobs either. I'm so self-conscious right now. I'm tired. But anyway, so it's not so much that we got in debt, it was just that we just didn't have money. Like, I've never had a credit card in my life. So when I ended up leaving him, I had $20 to my name. And I went home to live with my parents. And, I mean, it's not a bad thing to move back home. It was hard. But my parents were like, you need to get on. My mom really was instrumental in, like, teaching me it's not bad to ask for help. She's like, you need to get on food stamps, see if you can get financial aid, or TANF, which is temporary aid for needy families. Get back on your feet, get a place. And it took a while for it. I was able to focus on making art my work. But I also was able to find other work in town that helped me, get to a place where I didn't live with my parents anymore. So I got this job. It was a really good job at a factory in town. And it was a great job. It was solid. Like, I wasn't a temp. I was, like, literally working at the factory. I was working in the office. And at the end of the year, like, we knew that the company was being sold, but we were promised that we'd all be able to keep our jobs. The plant wasn't going anywhere. We weren't going anywhere. And then 2 days after the paperwork was signed, we were all told that we were laid off. And it's one of those things where this factory ran the town. Everyone worked there. If you didn't work there, you were working in a place that supported this factory or fast food, or retail. Like, there wasn't really a lot of stuff going on in town. So I was back to square one, and I was literally, like, there was no jobs. Like, everybody was looking for work, so there was so much competition for work. And it was right before the 2008, like, economic bust. So I made the decision to ask my mom to take care of my son while I went somewhere else to look for work. And I don't fully regret that decision because he's an amazing kid and I'm buffering. All right. If you see a buffer, just refresh. Oh, why are we buffering? The loading bar. Ay, come on. What are we doing here? All right. All right. Now I'm trying to figure out why. Come on. Let me try to. trying to brighten this up and it's not really happening. I'm in a lit room. I don't know. Is this gonna help at all? It might. That's so weird. Normally being backlit is like a bad idea. Alright, so asking my mom for help. It wasn't like the best help. But like she, had me go out. Oh wait, no. I skipped that part. My son, leaving my son with her. So I don't regret leaving my son with her. I knew that he would be in good care, someone that took care of him. At the same time, I knew that this would be a way that if something happened to me while I was looking for work, he wouldn't be taken away. So, I would try to turn around on the couch, but Ophelia has decided to starfish. So, yeah. Anyway, so, at the time, it kind of coincided with, I had a very long, for me, manic episode. And, it just wasn't a good time. I thought I was invincible. I wasn't sleeping. I was eating, just not often. I was going everywhere, doing everything, making some poor choices. And in the middle of that, I met my current ex, if that makes sense. And I thought it was the greatest idea. We were going to get married, we were going to have babies, I was going to go get my son, we were going to have this amazing life, right? Because he was going to go somewhere he was working at AT&T, and he was going to go right to the top, he was going to be the best, and I was going to get my degree, and I was going to be this amazing 3D designer, and then the reality set in that we were renting a room for $800, yes, $800, in a room in a house for $800, and that was bad financial decision on our part. And he doesn't know how to save either. His idea of taking care of someone is taking them out to dinner, taking them out shopping. And while technically he could afford it once in a while, he couldn't, And it was an unsustainable lifestyle that I didn't really ask for, and I would often say, listen, we don't need to go to Outback, we can get Taco Bell, or let's get some groceries and eat for a few days instead of just one meal. And that really wasn't something he was interested in. And then things happened there. That's another story time. And we went back to his parents, and that's when I lost my job again. This time it was dumbest reasons ever. I violated union laws of working off the clock, which, if you work somewhere where you're literally the one in charge of stuff, even though you're not the manager, but you're in charge of something, and everyone relies on you, and they keep calling you at home, that's technically considered working off the clock. But like when it deals with, like, I worked in the photo lab, when it's dealing with chemicals and it could potentially burn the building down, you have to take the call. So we went through that, and then he decided that it would be the best time to ask me to marry him. I said yes, and then we got married the next spring. Still living in his mom's basement. Like, I'm not telling you that, like, all this stuff was done to me. I'm literally relaying my series of poor choices. We got married, and then we got pregnant. He was still working with AT&T, and the week after our baby was born, he got let go. Not fired, just his contract wasn't renewed, which is how they fire you. Unless you did something, like, seriously wrong. So, sorry, I'm thirsty. You'd think that while we were staying with his parents, we were saving money, right? I didn't need things. Like, I had the clothes that I had. At the time at least, I preferred to cook at home. Sorry, my arm is getting tired. I need to lean on something. I preferred to cook at home. I preferred to... Oh, come on. Are we buffering again? Okay. Oh, come on. Okay. Okay, it looks like we're good. All right. So, anyway, series of poor choices. Throughout our marriage, when we were married, we're still legally married, but we were together for 8 years. Throughout the entire time, basically a series of poor choices. Financially. And, like, I tried starting a business, I tried doing all kinds of things, and it didn't end up working out. And finally it came to ending the relationship, and once he moved out, I started making sure all my ducks were in a row. I called all of the bill companies and tried to get on payment plans. That was the first thing that I did, because I knew that I couldn't afford huge bills. This is going to bug me.